YouTube, you're not gonna be in it.
That's cool.
I'm sure you don't mind.
In the corner, like there's stuff.
No, that's not it. I can't even catch him on YouTube. I got him on Instagram and Facebook, but not on
But we
YouTube.
don't want all these extra things.
You don't have.
We probably gonna need these Kleenex, so that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, like the jacket, the phone. Put that on
The
the
jacket
chair
and the
right
phone is not in there.
Okay.
It's in there not because y'all talking about it.
Just sit on that chair right there, baby.
Look, DJ don't want no smoke. He's like, listen, we in the she shack and these ladies is like attacking. Come on, move stuff around. Don't get stuff around. Right, like get all this stuff out of here. Yo, we are having a wonderful time. Great conversation with my very special guest, my sister, my friend, who I am so excited to be sitting here today talking to. She is a magnificent published author of the book Tequila's Way. A second book is on the way, or third book, right? It's on its way, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining. This is part 2 of an amazing 2-part series. It's called Surviving and Healing from Sexual Assault. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We have some information posted on Conversations in the She Shack. If you know someone or you yourself have been affected by sexual assault or any kind of sexual trauma, please know that there's help out there for you. There's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline, rape crisis line that is available. The information is on our group page, Conversations from the She Shack. So we're going to get started. We're going to jump right into it. And since we have a special guest, I'll save you. Everybody knows that Kashaya is here every week, right? So we might as well start calling her the co-host of Conversations from the She Shack, because she's literally she does not miss, by the way. She's always here. So when we kind of left off on Tuesday and we were talking about sexual assault and we was talking about how do you cope, things that help you cope. And she silently said to me in the corner, real softly, you become a hoe. I said, wait, what? Wait a minute, hold on. So then she was like, it's actually an addiction, like addiction to men. And I was hoping that you ladies can elaborate, because I'm completely out of my comfort zone with this.
I'm started off.
Oh, my girl, that's my mom. And she's talking about whoa. She about to think you sticking over the church finger. You gonna start this out?
Yeah, I started off, and the reason why I started off is because I feel that everybody deals with sexual assault in different manners. Mm-hmm. Me, myself, I was sexually assaulted not once but twice in my life. The first time I was sexually assaulted by my best friend's boyfriend in the house that I grew up in. That's the reason why I could relate to your book. I was on my way to the store, and he grabbed me, and at the time, the house was empty. Nobody was living in the house. And he grabbed me, and he sexually assaulted me at gunpoint. And during the process of that assault, I became pregnant, and I had to have an abortion, and I had to deal with that. So, to me, I put that in a box, and I placed it way back, okay? And I never thought about it anymore after that. I really didn't, because I knew that didn't define me as a person. And a lot of events in my life, as my uncle, my grandfather's brother, my grandfather had just died. I was laying across the bed, so help me Jesus. I was laying across the bed, I was sleeping, and my grandfather, Uncle Clyde, came into the room. He started caressing my back, rubbing my back. And I was like, stop, Uncle Clyde, don't do that. Okay, because wasn't nobody in the house with him and I at the time. And he got very aggressive. Well, at that time, I was older, and I took him and I pushed him behind the heater in the house, okay? And we literally fought, me and my great uncle did. And when my parents came back, because they was making the arrangements for my grandfather's funeral, when they came back, you know, he was all scruffled up and stuff like that, and they wanted to know what had happened. I really didn't say anything. So after a while, once the house was empty and all the guests was gone, I told my mom what had happened. And, you know, that was something to behold, because first of all, I was crazy about my Uncle Carr, and I never thought that he would even think of it, to even try something like that.
Well, we're gonna kind of like jump right, take that last piece of a family member or just a loved one or someone that you trust. Because usually it's somebody that you trust that violates your trust. And we're gonna jump just gonna dive right into Tequila's way. We're gonna dive right into it. Okay? And the reason why I say let's dive into it, because it's so many emotions attached to this book. The courage that you have displayed in sharing your story. This is not like I sat back in a dark room and I'm going to write a movie script. This is the script. This is the story. So I'm going to ask you to just, without giving away everything about the book, because this is a bestseller. And I need everybody to jump on board and get a copy of this book, and let's take this accomplished, published author all the way to the best sellers list. That is the objective, to get you there. So we're going to keep pushing this because I feel so strongly about what you've shared. So just give it to us.
Give it to you.
Yeah.
So I've been writing my entire life, and writing for me was my way to escape the pain. It was my way to deal with the pain. And I just kept different journals in various places.
When did you actually first start to write? Like, when did you find that writing was an outlet for you?
My first poem that I wrote, I was probably 11 or 12.
Wow.
And I was with a counselor, and I'll never forget saying that I ran, I hid, I felt like trash.
Wow.
And that's the way that I felt as a result of my abuse. It started when I was 8, and from the ages of 8 to about 13, I can't tell you the number of men who assaulted me, or looked at me, or groped me, or felt me. By the 6th grade, which is 11, 12, I was literally selling myself for food and toothpaste and toothbrush. Basic essentials. So, one way to deal with the pain is that I wrote. When it comes to actually putting together Tequila's Way, because of the extent and the magnitude of my abuse, you fight with the deli. You never quite get over it. Certain scents, like Listerine. I hate Listerine to this day. I hate it. Like I can choke someone. Don't come around me with that. So certain things, I still remember. I go right back to that dirty hotel and that man with the Listerine. So because of me struggling with it, I entered into an intensive outpatient program. This is probably my 4th one that I entered, because I was determined that there is a roadmap for me to get back to me. And I just have to figure out where it is. And I just get past the pain and the hurt and all that I've gone through, the trauma. So the last time I entered into a woman's program, one of the first things they discussed was radical acceptance. That you have to radically accept what you have gone through in order to heal.
At what point in your pain, your hurt, your suffering, that you came to the realization that this is not it for me, that there is a greater, because I know a lot of times when experiencing difficult or traumatic situations, we don't realize the time that we are actually wasting, or the time wasting away, because we're so caught and lost in in those traumatic experiences of our lives. So where and how did you know that I need to get out of this hole? I need help.
I've known that since probably 12 or 13. My prayer often was, I just want to be home. That I knew somewhere, in spite of all that I have endured, I had a father who raised me, who loved me, who cared for me. And I held on to that. When he died at 8, I held on to all of the stories he shared with me, our relationship. So I knew that there is a path back to that place, to that happy place, to that home place, to the place where I felt like I am a girl. You know?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I knew that, and because I knew that, I had to figure out my path back to that place of wholeness,
Right.
back to that place where I felt good to look at myself in the mirror, where I felt happy to wake up and simply be me without the pain. So I've always felt that there was a place within me that I had to get back to. The struggle was getting past the pain
Right.
to get to that place.
Right.
Because it's always something that's going to trigger it. You know, I like the fact that you enter into I'm not going to say facility, but it was a home, and you met other people that was probably going through the same thing that you was going through, and at that point in time in your life, you was able to relate to somebody else other than yourself. You know, because I think a lot of times when something like that happens to you, it's difficult to look yourself in the mirror. You know, at least for me, for a while it was very difficult for me to look in the mirror. And when I used to look in the mirror, I used to like, well, what did I do, you know, to deserve such, you know, disrespect?
Shia, can you relate at all to, because you too quiet on this stand, and I'm about to tell you right now, if I have to peel you back like an onion tonight, baby, that's what we're going to do, because in the She Shack, this is the place where you find love, where you find support, where you find empowerment, you find sisterhood here, you find transparency here. So here, first of all, roll calling was, we need to talk about sexual assault,
Yeah.
right? We need to peel this back and we need to talk about it, and there's some things I want to share. And off camera, by the way, she's very vocal. She's very vocal, and she tells a lot about, and she has so much to share from her own personal experience.
She may not have, let me ask you a question.
Because she's not shy.
I'm not saying she's not shy. I've spoken to a number of occasions. Have you ever had to experience anything like this?
Yeah.
Okay, and how did it make you feel in the end?
Like I whispered, I don't know, I just became a hoe.
Now, why would you say you became a hoe?
Because that was what I went to for anything. Anything went wrong, I went to find a way to escape one situation, and sex was like my outlet.
It becomes your coping mechanism.
Yep, it really does.
It becomes what?
It becomes your coping mechanism.
Oh,
And that's how I used to cope with a lot of things. Like, I've been sexually assaulted by family members, close friends. I've been raped twice. I've really been through a lot, but for me, reading your book, I was just like, yo, this is me. Like, even the situation with your mom, like, I don't think nobody understand. I kept telling Big Homie, like, yo, this book, yo. I'm like, this book. That part about your mom, that really did something to me, because right now, I don't speak to my mother. And I made the decision to, like, completely cut her off 2 years ago, because I just couldn't take the toxicity no more. And it was crazy because how you had gave up everything as soon as you found out something was wrong with your mom and you went running. That was me. And it's like, damn, I'm the child that no matter what, I'm dropping everything for you, but this how you treat me? So I had to make it well within myself to be okay to be like, no more.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, you know, reading your book, it kind of gave me hope. You know what I'm saying? Because my mom is still living. And I'm like, you know, maybe she will come around, you know what I'm saying? And we'll be able to, I don't know, even if we don't be tight again, you know what I'm saying? Just as long as I can have that peace for me.
And you know, when we speak of the abuse, the men, our relationships with our parents, I realized it was not until my mother passed away, I realized just how much she had gone through. You know? And unfortunately, we speak about that mirror and how hard it is to even look at ourselves in the mirror sometimes. When you don't love yourself, you can't truly look at yourself in the mirror. When our parents are a reflection of us, or when we are a reflection of, you know, vice versa, how can I truly love you and give you what you need when I'm struggling with my own abuse? And each time I see you, I see my abuse. I don't know if you were there, but I was sharing about my son, that from 0 to 7, when I say interacting and playing and building castles to the sky and reading every night, there, faithfully. Something about him turning 7 or 8 became hard for me to be his parent. And it became hard because each time I saw the 8-year-old child, I saw the 8-year-old unhealed, victimized person in me, and could only think of, how could someone destroy something that's innocent? So each time he said, "Mommy, let's play," he might as well just took a hammer and shattered every glass within my soul, because that's how hard it was for me to hear, for me to play with you. Me playing with you means getting in touch with that victimized child that I haven't dealt with. So when it comes to your mother, and I can say it easily now, but radical acceptance, she is who she is, and forgiveness, because God forbid she passes away tomorrow, you're going to carry that with you for the rest of your life. And what I've learned with my mother is, and I'm not sure if I shared this in the book or not, but my mother never said, "I love you." And this would be me: "Mommy, I love you." Father Sean, "Mommy, I love you." Father Sean, "Mommy, I love you." Father Sean, and she'll hang up. I call her back, "I love you." I'm not going to love you. Like, and this was me as an adult saying I'm not going to hang up. And she was never able to say that she loved me. But the week before she passed away, went to her house to drop some things off. Her friend was taking care of her. I'm looking at this woman who I've always known to be a fighter, and she's wetting herself. And I'm so angry, and I'm so enraged in watching her. And I'm like, "Why don't you just go to the bathroom? Like, why can't you just do this?" And she said, "No, show him, I can't." And I'm watching this woman who went to the store for my mom, and I wrote her a letter. I was saying to this woman, "Thank you for caring for my mom. It's not that I don't want to. I don't know how to deal with all this anger towards her and do it without making it look like angry black woman or something, you know?" So I would just let her know, "You're going to go to heaven for this." That was the last time that day, before I left her house, he told me to listen to what she wanted. And I got to the door, she asked for Jello. I was like, "Here!" Like, just kind of feeling like getting my life together. And it may not have been that way, but in my head, it was like, "Take this." I got to the door, my mom said, "I love you." And everything in me dropped. My throat, I looked back, and I was like, "I love you too." That was the last time that I saw my mother alive. I didn't get her the stuff that she wanted. My ex-husband took those things to her. I say that only to say, we have no idea, like if we had our lives hard, only God knows how much harder our parents' lives were. And the last thing I'll say about that is, I found out more recent, my mother's been dead for 15 years now, I found out more recently that my mother used to go to the store intentionally, steal something, hoping to get caught, so she can go back to the youth house, or wherever they were sending them then, to avoid from going home.
Wow.
So if you say, if I'm hearing you say, "I've experienced abuse and other things," it's not that your mother don't love you, it's probably too painful for her to love you. So the first thing I would say is, you forgiving yourself and you forgiving her. And ending that, I'm never gonna, yes, it's toxic. She may always be toxic. But writing a letter or finding little things you can do to release it. Because again, the way things are today, God forbid she goes tomorrow, and now you're carrying all of those unresolved things in you. The last thing I'll say is, my mother and I, we never spoke about the abuse. We never spoke about that man who abused me, was her boyfriend. Deviant is what I called him in the book. We never had those conversations. But I know that she went back to a counselor and talked to my counselor about it. And we got to a place where at least we would sit inside her house. I would have my coffee and my cigarettes. She'll have her pets and her cigarettes. We'll watch TV while she made my lumber beans and iron my clothes. And that was us finding our peace. So in your own way, finding a way to find peace within yourself, because that's the part of your healing process.
And I can say wholeheartedly that is so true. That you have to, you know what, you have to find a peace within yourself, because you don't really, from a mother's perspective, you don't know what she's dealing with, you know. And sometimes when you forgive that person, you take that anger that you have, you set it aside, you put it in a suitcase, you pack it up, you lock it away. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing about it is, you only get one mother. And once that mother's gone, there is no refund, there is no rebate. So as far as me and my daughter, when I was growing up as a teenager, I always felt unloved. I always felt that way. Always felt that way. I felt that I was tolerated by others, but I wasn't truly loved. Okay? But after I had my 2 kids, I only had 2, that's all I wanted. Because I figured, you know, what else can you have? Okay? So after I had my kids, that's when I figured out what love truly was. Okay, when I looked down in my baby's eyes, I said, okay, that's when I first felt loved. Loved unconditionally. Okay? And when Yvette and Marlon tells me all the time, you know, I raised them to be close. And the reason why I raised them to be close, because I wasn't close with my own sisters and brothers. I am not close with them to this very day. Well, I take that back. I have 2 brothers that I am close to. But my other sisters and brothers, I'm not really close to them. You know, but I raised them to be close. Matter of fact, Marlon would listen to Yvette before he would listen to me in some cases.
Oh, wow.
And they call and tell on one another, you know. So, but the whole thing in a nutshell is this. We had our moments. We really did. We had our moment. It was a moment in our lives that I wasn't even speaking to her. Okay, I would go see my grandkids, and I wouldn't even speak to my own daughter. Okay.
Let me just pick that up. I'm gonna pick that up, and I'm gonna pick that up for this reason, because it's always transparent in the She Shack, and I can't let people share and me not be transparent as well. My mom and I, when I was younger, especially as a young mother, our relationship was very difficult. It was a lot about our relationship that I didn't understand. My mother was not very affectionate to me, but she was more affectionate to my brother. And I felt like I would do any and everything to get her attention for affection. I wanted to be the kid that made the straight A's in school and did everything right, because my brother was always getting in trouble. I'm talking about, damn it, now, he was always in trouble. And I would think to myself, boy, if I did that, Mom would really beat my butt. You know, that kind of stuff. So when I got older, when I got into my teenage years, I was very rebellious. So everything she told me to do, I did the opposite, because that's the only time I had her attention. Long as I was doing well in school, long as I was following the rules, long as I was doing everything I was supposed to do, it felt like I was just looked over, like I would just be passed over. But the moment that I did something that was defiant, when I did something that she found that she needed to chastise me for, I had all the attention. And so I began to be rebellious against everything she said, just to get her attention. And that lasts for a little while.
And it lasts for a little while, but I think the part that Yvette didn't really get as a young girl is that her brother at the time had to have my attention.
No, it's not that I didn't get it. I got that part. No, Mom, I really did get that part.
And let me finish. And I always told Yvette, look, I'm already having problems out of more. I don't need no problems out of you. Okay? I always said that. All right? And I think it was because of the fact that I knew her capability. Okay? I knew and then at the time we had neighbors. We had 2 loving neighbors, okay, and they knew everything that was going on.
No, we had 2 nice neighbors, 1 loving neighbor, 1 very mean neighbor. Okay, let's just tell the truth about this thing. We not about to paint this like it's the white people.
Well, I don't know whether she said it was mean.
As hell.
Well, I'm not gonna say they were mean. I'm gonna say, well, you know, I would say, okay, I would send Yvette across the street to one of my neighbors' house. She was very strict, made Yvette sit down, do her homework, sit there with her, this kind of stuff like that. I don't know. And then I had my neighbor that was right next door to me. She didn't make her do that. Okay? But at the time, I was going through so much with her brother, it was like, my son took me through it, okay? He was $100,000 investment. That's what Marlon was to me when he was the age of 5. All right, because he truly took me through it. And I felt at that time that I was having so many problems, so many complications with him, that I just didn't need no complications with her, okay? And she, by her being the oldest, maybe I put more responsibility on her than I should have.
That's not, see, the thing is, my mother at the time did not know that I was molested.
No, I didn't know.
Okay, so I was really, really, really lost. I was lost for affection because now we are no longer living in that same environment, and so there is no access to me of my predator, right? But now I'm struggling with, I'm already been rejected by the person that was molesting me, and I was unsure of if it was wrong or not because of the sexual stimulation that I felt as a child. And I didn't know how to express that. My mom has always been like a safe place for me. So I no longer felt safe. I no longer felt affection. I no longer felt like anybody cared. I just felt like by myself, you know, and being 5, 6, 7, and being like, I wasn't even sure who I liked. Did I like me? Did I like other people? I was struggling with my self-identity. I was struggling with self-esteem. I didn't know how to say, I need you. I understand he needs you, but I need you. Like, I felt like I didn't have my mom because the focus was so much with what was going on with him. I felt so alone, you know, and I grew up uncertain about a lot of things in life because I had nobody to tell. I had to kind of like figure out. I always felt like I was figuring it out. Like I had to figure it out. Oh, you smart, you know what to do. Oh, you bright, you know what to do. You know, you're responsible, you know what to do. But inside, I really didn't know what to do.
Inside,
It was like I was wearing this mask of that I had it, that I knew it, that I was good, but I really wasn't good. I really was this scared little 6-year-old girl. Wow.
Trying to put your life together.
I was this scared little 6-year-old girl that kept remembering.
Okay, tissue.
Sitting there's only a couple people that kind of know this story. And I affectionately call you Nature because that's how you introduce yourself to me. I'm good. I don't want no Kleenex in the shit. Stick that over there. But because I'm stronger now, I'm stronger than what I've been through.
And then we talked about it.
We did talk about it, but like,
And we've talked about it several times. But it was hard to hear. It really was hard to hear. And it was heartbreaking, because, and I asked, I said, why you never said anything to me? See, she never said anything to me. And I was like, it was really hard to hear. Okay? It was really hard to hear. It was really, really hard to
I
hear.
think the hardest part.
And I felt really bad for a while afterwards.
I could feel that Mom was
I was heartbroken.
feeling something, but the initial response, this was the initial response. This is my mom always being like strong. She was like, suck it up. That was then, this is now. You deal with it.
Can I say something about that? So with that, there's two sides of it. And our families, in our culture in particular, unfortunately, and fortunately, we say that, suck it up, deal with it, you keep moving, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know what it took me to get to a place, this is like 4 years ago, of being able to truly get and deal with it? Wasn't that intensive outpatient program? When they said radical acceptance, suck it up. Radical acceptance is simply to accept this has happened. Mm-hmm. That this has happened. Now that this has happened, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to still stay in it? Am I going to stay stuck in this? Or am I going to keep moving? So suck it up, deal with it, and keep moving.
That probably was the best advice that she gave me. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, looking back, like, really looking back, like, it allowed me to be able to face my fears. It allowed me to be able to no longer be afraid, no longer to live in fear. Because I literally was living in fear. It was like, gave me a space where I can tell my mom, like, I haven't been a virgin since I was 6. I could say that and not fall all over and cry. I can say, Mom, I forgive you as my mom because now as a mom, I get it. You understand? Like, I no longer feel like, why weren't you there? And you didn't listen to me. And you didn't care about me. And woo, woo, woo. That was just so much buildup of things. Mm-hmm. But the embrace that my mother gave to me, and she said, I can't help you with this. I think that was the most honest thing she said. Yeah. She said, I can't help you with this. You need therapy.
Because she acknowledges this is beyond. And there are some things that are...
Girl, let me tell you something about this therapy. And I don't even know if my mom even really know that this how this therapy was going down. I went to 2 sessions. Okay? And all the other sessions, I walked around, went got a snowball, was going to be nosy, watching the people play football, watching the boys over there at John Mack practicing, being fast ass, looking at the boys in the tights. I was doing everything but going to therapy. I hated therapy. I hated therapy. I hate the fact that everybody try to make it seem that therapy is for everybody. It is not. It's not. I hated it. There was nothing about it that made me feel good inside. It was nothing about it that made me feel empowered. What made me feel empowered was facing the fears that was embedded in me because of the assault. That's what made me feel empowered.
So for therapy, I believe that it does work. I believe that if more of us went to therapy, we wouldn't have the abuse and other things that we're having. And it's a matter of finding the right type of therapy.
I just think that I wasn't ready for therapy. That's what I think.
The second place.
I don't think I was ready.
For
I don't think I was ready. I and the reason why I said I don't think I was ready was because, okay, it was group therapy, all right, and let me tell you now. Listen, now I'm Charlene's daughter, okay, and I know I'm just gonna tell the truth. You don't have people all up in your business.
No, I don't.
You do not have people up in your business like this. This is not what we do. This is not how it's done. And so when everybody going around talking about, well, Yvette, you ready to share, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's how closed up I was. How I'm like, no, thank you. I had built up anger and a defense wall, and it's like, I'm not talking to you, you're not talking to me, I'm not letting you up in my business. I don't even really want to be in y'all business. That's how I was like, I was so like,
Yeah, she wasn't.
I was stoned. I had built a wall that was so high and that was so wide that you're not getting in here. That was the way I protected myself. And to be very honest with you, that man that's behind the camera right there is the person that's responsible for taking a chisel and taking a little hammer and kept chiseling away at this brick wall I had until he peeked in and made a little light and made me feel safe. He was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but I like you. And I would like to spend more of my time with you. And I'm looking at him like, I don't think so. I'm not talking to you, or you. I'm not talking to none of y'all. I don't want to talk to anybody. By this point, I didn't have any friends. I had no social outlets. I didn't attend any extracurricular activities. All I did was go to school and go home. And that was it. And I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want you talking to me. And on my outlet was books. That's why I love your book. My outlet was books. By the time my senior year was over, I easily had read 100 books. Easy. And I allowed my mind to take me to places where I could travel and that I could see the world through books. I can feel emotion through books. And books is what helped me heal. That's why books are so profoundly important. They're so, because you can find what you need there. You can find emotions there. You can find love in books. You can find healing in books. When I read Tequila's Way, I wept. I didn't cry, I was weeping. And why I was weeping? Because my complete healing came through Tequila's Way. I had been carrying, being molested, and being raped for over 20 years. Wearing a mask for 20 years. I've worn a mask of strength and courage and forgiveness. And then I picked up that book. And I felt the Spirit of God.
I love the way that you, even through your struggles in your book,
Did you feel that?
you always reflected back to God. Always. I was, you always reflected back to Him. And you constantly talked to Him throughout, even when you was a young girl and you was going through all of that, and after you lost your father and you was going through that struggle in your life, whereas, you said that you did what you had to do to get toothpaste and mouthwash and have a place to stay and this here kind of stuff, but you never lost sight in God.
I was, after I was first abused, I began to have nightmares. Like horrific nightmares. And one night my father called my aunt and I learned the Lord's Prayer. And we also was heavy into church, because in those days, we went to church, and it was all day, morning and afternoon.
Girl, yes.
We were in church.
All the time.
And I think, if I can recall it, my father said, we learned the Lord's Prayer, buy you whatever you want, you know. I learned the Lord's Prayer, we went to Woolworth's downtown in Trenton, I got my Barbie doll.
Did you say Woolworth? Did you just call Woolworth? Girl, I stole my first candy bar at Woolworth.
And I just knew that someday, some way, that I was going to get my healing. I just trusted God that through all of it, that God, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you do it. You're going to do it. But I trusted that my life would not always be that way.
Right.
And a large part of it was, if I did not speak enough of my father, but my father to me was my superhero. He was my giant, you know. And I just heard recently, my father was short. He was 5'7", but in my head he was like 6'10".
Oh, no, that's tall. 5'7" is tall. 5'7" is tall. You know how long I've been wishing for 5'7".
So I had this extremely strong man in my life, this humble man in my life, who cooked, who was a caregiver, who was a provider, who showed me what a man was. You know, and I had a beautiful aunt who showed me through her life, through her living, through her caring, who God was.
Right.
And I knew that even though these things happened, that my life would be different. I knew that even though the abuse happened, that my father, my family tried their best to wrap their arms around me, the best they knew how with what they had.
Right.
And throughout my entire struggle, I just knew that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow.
You know, I knew that there would be a light. So no matter what happened, you know, even for my abusers, I believe that I've forgiven almost all my abusers except for one. I can sit down at a table and have dinner with my first abuser. I can look at him and say, hi, how are you? And not have anything inside of here. And I realized that in order for me to heal, I had to forgive them.
Right.
And as long as I
How
held
did
on,
you get there? Oh my God, how
how did I get
did
there?
you get there?
So the one, my mom's ex-boyfriend who exploited me, I was basically, I was the prostitute. I was a prostitute. There's no other way. I was a prostitute at 10, 11, 12 years old. That was me for basic essential needs. I haven't forgave him because I felt that you were manipulative with it. You knew what you were doing.
Right.
You knew how, and I never forget him saying, this is what fathers do to prepare their children for the world. So I've never quite forgiven
What did he say again?
This is what fathers do to prepare their children for the world.
Now, my father died at 8 months. He had a beautiful relationship. He's never done anything nowhere remotely close to that. But the ones who I have forgiven, I realized 9 times out of 10, hurt people hurt people. I believe that, so that's one. And then the second, I realized that they were that block in front of me, that there were certain things beyond that block that I needed to get to.
Okay.
And in order for me to get to that point, I needed to forgive them.
Right.
I needed to forgive them because there were things that I couldn't get to, you know? So I had to learn to get to a place where I could see them and not wanting to take a knife and straight shank them.
Right.
You know?
Not the shame.
I had such anger issues.
Yeah.
Where I felt like I can kill you with my bare hands and not think twice about it.
Right.
And stump you until you're dead and wait for the cops to come and say, I did it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the anger and hate. Those people who into the anger and hate came me fighting constantly. You know? There's also a level of hating myself. I think someone said earlier, not being able to look in the mirror.
That was
You
me.
know? Yes, not looking in it. And now, like, boo, I love you, and you love handles, and
I know that.
You better go ahead and talk about it. Now, you better go ahead on and talk about it.
Where I could see myself and love myself.
Right.
Where I can do a body scan and say everything in you is good because your world is good.
Right.
Because you chose to forgive. When we speak about God, I come to realize that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. You speak of what you've gone through, but if you had not gone through any of those things that you have gone through, would you be where you are today?
Absolutely not.
You know? And that's what I look at, and I can say today, God, I thank you for the rape. I
Right.
thank you for the abuse. I thank you for all of that. Because if I had not experienced any of that, I wouldn't be where I am or who I am today. and this person that I am, I'm like, I love me.
Right.
I love 99.5% of me. And if I said 100, I would be lying because we all have that one thing. We're like, girl, you ain't.
Girl, please, if we could just get this one thing together, right? If we could just clean up this one corner.
Right. And that's where it is now. Right now it's like, girl, it's like, but you're getting there.
Right.
You mentioned earlier, you know, and I think you asked earlier about the writing of Tequila's Way. Well, I've had scattered writings for a gazillion years. The last time I entered into an intensive outpatient program, I entered it because it was like, you still don't like it. You still know that those bubbles bubble up.
Right.
And those bubbles scare you because your mom, speaking of relationships, like my mom was extremely abusive. And I call her Yvonne, like, girl, Yvonne is rolling up in you. And Yvonne is a scary person. Yvonne is full of rage. And at times I know she still wells up in me. It's like, it's scary.
Right.
And having a small child, it's scary because
I just was getting ready to ask you about that because having your personal struggles with your mental health as it related to, you know, the abuse you incurred as a young child and now you're a mother and trying to just, here comes this word again, trying to maintain balance.
So, mental health, I have, I sometimes, let me just say it. So, I'm bipolar, I have PTSD, I have anxiety, MICKUI, MOUSE, but I have a master's.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
When I was first diagnosed with bipolar, it was after I lost Madison. And I'm like, I don't have bipolar. That's for those people out in the streets. I don't have that. What are you talking about?
Absolutely
I know
not.
what bipolar is, and no, I see those people. But it also came after a time that, after Madison, I had a psychotic breakdown, postpartum psychosis, whatever it was. I was here with you one moment, and the next moment I was up wherever I was in La La Land. I was literally in touch, and that's reality. And by the grace of God, even in those moments, don't tell me it's not a God, because there's no way my God's going on earth. Am I here today? Sound mind, and I'm talking to you.
Right.
I was psychotic, out of my mind, for only God knows how long it was. But what I do know is that I had 2 aunts that came there faithfully, that prayed for me, that prayed with me, that was not my determined, destined place. So, dealing with mental illness and also having a child. And still speaking of trauma, being molested from the ages of 7 or 8 until you're 13 and then going through other abuses and whatever.
Right.
Psychological trauma, which also leads to mental health.
Right.
So being a parent, I thank God for losing Madison, because if I had not lost Madison, I would be a diapers case with that child.
You think so?
Oh, I would be a diapers case with that child. After I lost Madison, I entered my first intensive, first was inpatient program, then an outpatient program. Losing Madison was the icebreaker for me in saying, wow, you got all this stuff inside of you that you have not even dealt with, that you have not even begun to deal with. So my scariest moment with my son, I can say it now because we're older, my scariest moment with him was that he did something, I don't know what he did, and whatever it was, before I knew it, and I don't know where Yvonne came from, but she whooped up and was like, nah, I got this, and grabbed that child up and had him like this. And the second I did this, and I was like, oh, you going too far. You know, like I knew the second I did this, and I looked at him and his child, I was like, you've gone too far. You know?
Oh, thank God for that.
And I was like, you know what? You need help. That you still have all this stuff inside of you. So how do I deal with mental health and having a child? I chose therapy. I chose intensive outpatient programming until I couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
I chose to take medication. I take my psychotropic medication every single day.
Okay.
I have medication for anxieties in the event that I need it, but I don't take it as often.
Good.
But beyond the medications, I'm learning to take care of me. So some days taking care of me means being in my bubble. I call it my bubble, my safe space. You know, and I often say to people, until you have lost your mind, don't tell me how to preserve mine. you know?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
sometimes people think, oh, you're acting funny, oh, you're shady. No, right now my anxieties are so heavy and they're so big, I need to get back into that God in me, to that voice in me, and make sure that it is the strongest voice in me. Because sometimes when you get people, when you allow people into your conversations, into what's happening to you, now it's their voice you're hearing in your head, and now you're fighting on what's the right, but you know what the right voice is because God gives you that clearly.
That's
you know?
true. Because I can remember when I was in therapy, not to cut you off, for a long time.
Y'all see why I couldn't wait for her to get in. She is absolutely amazing. I couldn't wait to get you in there, she said.
See, I can relate to what you were saying because it was a point in my life around 2004, 2005. I was doubting, you know, am I a good person? You know, I used to ask, am I a good person? I'm not a good person, you know. And I had to go to therapy because it was rooted so deep in me that, you know, I was like,
Oh, we almost,
So,
it's time to wrap it up.
10 in the morning.
I saw the fingers. Wrap it up.
understood. And it took me a while, but I was in personal therapy, a one-on-one kind of thing. And it took me a while to get back to my quiet space, I would call it. You know, where I was able to love myself. You know, I at some point it almost makes you want to feel that, you know, you give up, you know, you just done.
You know what's crazy? Like listening to my mom say this, that's around the time when our relationship actually started to get better.
Really?
Our relationship actually really started to get better. I think, I didn't even know my mom did therapy, but when you say radical acceptance, I had a very, very, very good friend of mine that's a friend to me right to this day. And I'll never forget feeling so broken. I was just crying and frustrated. And it might seem like something that's like cliche, but he said to me, you have to learn to accept your mom for who she is. Not for the mom that you're trying to create her to be, the one that you're trying to paint a canvas for.
Right.
But when you get to a space in your life, when you can just accept your mother for who she is, the relationship between you and your mother would get better. And it was really a light bulb moment, like bing, 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 bing. You're absolutely correct. So it was really altering my lens. It was really changing the lens, the focus. And when I changed the lens to not being who I want you to be, still trying to get her to comfort that 6-year-old girl, but this 28-year-old woman, it changed. And I mean, today, my eyes not big enough to see her. Like, I absolutely, completely adore her. And I can also say today that I know that my mother loves me. That our relationship is lighthearted and fresh and clear and clean and concise.
Yeah, because they didn't know. I was in therapy for about almost 3 years.
Things got better. Things really got better.
It was one-on-one. And, you know, I think for me, a lot of things, it felt like the world was crashing down on me. You know, it was almost to the point where I couldn't breathe. You know what I mean?
Mom got really sick one time, right? And I don't even know if Mom even remembers this. I used to live across the street from her. Like, she's always been my safety net. Like, even when...
Yeah, that was my ride down.
Yeah, like, she's always been my safety net. Like, even when we weren't really speaking or getting along, it was still my safety net. Like, I couldn't be far away from her. I literally moved out of my mom's house, and I moved across the street. So my mother got really sick. Like, I think she had, like, something going on with her bladder, kidneys, something. But she was too prodded to say, Yvette, I need your help. She had my brother there. But my brother and I, there's 3 years apart between us. You know, so my brother is there, and, you know, so Barney, my son, don't take care of me. Right? son in the house with you all day and I forgot you can't get up. You ain't had a drink of water, you ain't had a slice of bread, you ain't had a cracker, nothing. So I just happened to come in from work and I'm like, let me go over and check on mom. Girl, when I got there to check on mom, she was like, oh, you came like I was Jesus. Oh, you're here. But I don't know if she remember. I give her this soup, I give her these crackers, I give her this juice, I give her meds, I help her shower, I put her in bed, and
I told her,
sleeping.
don't go.
I'm sleeping on the floor next to her in the bed. But before I lay down, she grabs me by my hand, and these are the words you said to me. She said, I know I haven't been much of a mother to you. She said, but I just didn't know how.
And that typically is the reason why we are the way that we are towards our children. We don't know how. When we, to bring it all the way back to the beginning, you said that we use sex as our coping skills because we don't know how to cope differently. And doing the book Tequila's Way, and writing it for my therapy, my therapist kept saying, when I first went to therapy, I gave her my list of issues, like it was a grocery list. And she said to me, I'm concerned, you just gave me all this trauma you experienced and you're so detached from it. Like that's concerning, like you're detached. And again, a therapist has her way of pulling it out, and I hated her at a certain point because I gotta process this and then take it home with me. But in writing it, I started to, walk into the room and say, all right, hand me Kleenex. And I would start to read. And I'm like, do you see this? And she's like, yeah. So, no, I don't need it. I'm just saying that that's how I began to process, Tequila's Way. It's just, you have to deal with it, or else it just keeps dealing with
It'll eat you alive.
You have to acknowledge these things have dealt with. You have to deal with that grieving, because that's the anxieties of it all. I've learned that this eases in our sicknesses most of the time. It's just unprocessed, unhealed things in various areas. And that's why we become sick a lot of the times. I have this great book, You Can Heal What You Feel by Louise L. Hay. When I was first given this book by my old counselor, it has a list of diseases in the body. And I opened it up, and I did, coma, and it said, the failure or fear to face reality. And I closed it up, and it took me 20 years to open this book up again, because my father died when I got a coma. The time that he died was after him finding out about my abuse.
Right.
So, with that, I've learned what are you feeling and why? And to wake up in the morning and process that. So when you ask me how to do it with my son and have mental illnesses, I do my body scans. I make sure I'm okay for me first. If I'm having a bad day, honey, mama's having a mama bear day. Take my medicine, give me a little while, get my coffee, get my life together. And he understands, I'm Yvonne. I could be Yvonne any given moment. You got 100 Legos on the floor, that's fine right now. But if I go over and come back out with 101, I'm like, ah. So before I take it out on you, let me deal with me.
Right.
So having self-awareness is such an important part of having mental illnesses and dealing with children.
Absolutely.
That we look at mental illnesses and we say, oh, it's a stigma, oh, she has this, or oh, it's this. But no, it's okay, because I've worked for child protection, and I have a very awesome wife, and I have mental illness.
Right.
But I am not my mental illness.
I am not my mental illness. Absolutely.
So there's
Absolutely.
a difference. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
I think,
You're absolutely right.
I can't take this little line behind over here subscribe, okay?
I want to say this before we close out. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Not only was it's been an eye opener. And yes, your book it's emotional, but it's a good emotion. Okay? I mean, yes.
You just gave a lot of lessons.
Yeah, you did.
Really?
Yeah. And you continue to write because
We are going
and the other thing I love about your book is easy reading.
Thank you.
It's easy reading. It's easy reading, and I've been looking forward to meet you for ever since the reservations come out. Like,
We're gonna keep talking to nature because I can't like the whole Tamika thing, but nature. But I just wanted to close out this because this is our part 2 with your final prayer. So, if you would do us the honors, yes, if you would do us the honors of closing out the She Shack.
Dear God, I believe in you. I believe in the miracles you spoke of in Mark 11:24. I ask that as I write through my healing, that you minister to my broken spirit. Give me you and remind me of your word to comfort and heal me. Lord, as I write my story, I pray that you do it again. Testimony means to do it again, Lord. You get the glory, for all belongs to you. Allow my words, my life, my experience, my pain, and my shame to heal your children who feel like they are drowning in their storms of life. Minister to us, Lord. We can find you in our storms to set us free. May we finally know what it feels like to have peace within our souls and to be at peace with who you are in our lives. I beg of thee, O Lord, please do it again. Heal your children and free us from our pain. Please do it again, Lord. Do in them what you are doing in me. I will always and forever praise and honor your name. You deserve honor and praise. Amen. Because it goes on.
Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Please, 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 if you know someone or you yourself have been affected by sexual trauma or by sexual assault, get help. Find your place of peace, therapy. There is help out there. You can call the Rape Crisis Line. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Reach out. There's always help available. You are not alone. Thank you so much, Tamika, for joining in. Thank you so much, Kashaya, for sharing. And we actually have an audience tonight, so we're getting fancy in the She Shack. Thank you guys so much. We are on YouTube. So it's called Conversations in the She Shack with A Queen. All of our videos are posted on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. We will continue to keep doing this empowerment, spreading love, and bigging our people up. We have a published author in the She Shack. Like, what's messing with that? Thank y'all for coming. Good night.
we all